Good, we're back. And now everybody's looking into the Atmos system. Da-da-da-da. So, Roc-A-Fella days, Jay-Z, Memphis Bleek. Now, when you start looking at people's careers, and it's always about Bleek, and people want to know, like, what's the difference with Bleek and Jay? Like, how did these two even come around each other? Zeno, what happened? You seen Bleek podcast. You seen Bleek say this. You see Bleek say that. What you think about it, Zeno? Bleek said he finna do this. He finna do X, Y, and Z. Bleek said he gonna do this and this and that. Oh, did you see what Bleek said? Always something, right? There's always that something. When do Zeno sleep? That's another great question. But look at that dome on Bleak head. Good Lord. Right in the Marcy Projects buildings. So, anyway, Memphis Bleek and Jay's relationship was like big brother, little brother. But Jay uses the relationship in a whole different way than what many people will see, know, or understand. That's the problem people don't know. Jay was going to write for Memphis Bleek, and he was just going to sit back. That was his whole thing. I'm just going to write your songs, and you going to be good. Jay was just going to eat off the royalties of writing. If Volume 2 didn't blow, he was just going to sign some artists and then write. Bleek was going to be the guy he was going to make hot. So he can just get his rhymes off on Bleek. Because Bleek could be sitting there famous, but Jay'll be getting all the bulk of the money because he's writing the songs. Once Jay got into the writing game, he was getting bigger checks writing for Foxy Brown than he would making his own records. See, people forget Foxy was making more than Jay-Z. Not saying Jay was broke, but he wasn't no millionaire at the time. He had money, but he wasn't a millionaire. Now, when you start to look at how you got there and how you didn't end up doing X, Y, and Z, let's talk about that moment. Hit the like button up, y'all. Mm. No, no. The thing of it is this, man. When you look at how somebody come up and you think about the mind of Jay-Z, you have to put yourself in the mind of Jay, right? If you put yourself in the mind of Jay, you automatically know this type of dude. I know this type of guy. Seen this type of dudes. They very, you know, proper. They normally iron their t-shirts and jeans. You know, they gotta have crisp everything. Everything gotta be flawless, perfect, like a female almost would do. And they have very sensitive tendencies. Like it's easy to hurt their feelings, and they stay quiet because they don't want nobody to see. And most of these people been bullied early in their life. And now they got a little bit of power. Now they feel they want to be a bully. They misuse that power. And Jay was one of these two people that once he got to that position, he idolized wanting to be a big boss. And he wasn't a big boss like that. And that's when he was coming up in the game, but he rapped like he was that guy before he actually made it. He hung around real street dudes who was doing real street stuff. And I ain't gonna say Jay didn't do no real street nonsense, but I will tell you this, Jay was out there. In his early days doing things, but he was with his people who were doing that type of activities. And you say, man, why he ain't around, Memphis Bleek? Bleek is the perfect guy to be around. Like Bleek is, humble guy, but he's loyal. So Jay is still gonna be cool with Bleek no matter what to the end because the general public knows him through the success of Jay. So when Jay came up, Bleek was right there. Long as Bleek is being loyal to Jay, why you ain't taking care of Bleek? That's your little homie. That was your little brother in your rhymes. Don't worry, Bleek will be set for life. Now, if Bleek is out here messed up and you living well, that ain't gonna look well. That ain't gonna look right. So he gotta make sure Bleek is at least decent. He's living fine, So that was the whole thing. But here's the thing, Jay is in a different bracket that Bleek will never be allowed to be in that situation. He will not have Bleek around because they can't let Bleek see him being subservient to the people that he's subservient to. See, Jay play boss until he around real bosses. And then he turns back into that little subservient person who's idolized by real power. He want that so bad. He want to be in that position. And he knows if Bleek see him act like that or get sunned or, little boy or put in a place by higher ups over him, if Bleek was to see that, that goes back to Marcy probably. In Jay's mind, I can't let Memphis Bleek see me weak. He can't see that. Because see, he know me, he look up to me. And that's what Jay want. They know of Jay like he a big boss. That's why when you see these overgrown dudes hanging out with these little dudes, because to these little dudes, you're a legend. And they don't even know what you've done. If you've done anything at all, to them, you're a legend, B. Legendary status. They don't know nothing about you, really. So they listen to the stories. And that's how they get caught up on everything. Well, you see a lot of people, they stop doing all that, tributes and all of these things later on. But you see people come and go. Now, Bleek was a good dude. Like, he came up here. Like, Bleek is an everyday street dude. He would go places and do things for Jay that Jay couldn't do. Like, his first job with Jay wasn't selling drugs. He was like, look, take my nephews to school. That's your job. just take my nephews to school right now. That was his first job before he started rapping for Jay. It was take my nephews to school, bro. Yeah, drive my nephew to school, man. That's what that was about. You know what? It's just so many times you're gonna be able to get away with like doing stuff like that. You know, the overall picture is these dudes are trying to play me. So everybody's trying to get over on me. But you got to remember, he didn't own Roc-A-Fella when he was on Roc-A-Fella. He was got a percentage, but he was the artist. He was the only one really bringing in money. For the longest, it was Jay-Z and them other niggas. That's how it was like. So when they brought Bleek up, when he went platinum, first he went gold, then he had his first platinum album. It was like, all right, you on your way. Bleek is coming up. He's on his way. He about one hit away from being there. That's what they were thinking. But all his hit songs were Jay-Z's songs that he gave him. Gave Bleek records so that Bleek could blow. Beanie Siegel was never going to get the point. See, Beanie Siegel kept getting into street trouble. They was trying to do the songs to make him go commercial. And Beanie's just too street for that. And like he said, I ain't trying to change you. I'm trying to give you some game. So you could make the transition from the streets to the fame. Like, I need you to change up your style a little bit. Change your look up. You know, you doing all this street stuff and beating up dudes in the studio. You know, you can't be that guy, dog. He threatened Leo Cohen on his debut album. He came in there and Leo Cohen Leo don't care about nothing that's not gonna make money. And what he was like, I don't hear any commercial radio songs on this album. I can't sell this. This is not even a gold album. And we're putting this kind of money into this. And he basically dissing the album in front of Beans. And this is Beans' debut album. He was like, dude, you ain't here shitting on my dream. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is my chance to shine. We think the album is hot. And they was like, what's this? And Beans is like, no, the single gonna be this. And that's it. So they was like, well, why Beans ain't get the opportunity that Bleek got? Beans is too self-centered. Like, he's a alpha male. Jay can't have that around him. If you can't wield that power will overtake you because it's going to want its own independence. It's going to want to be its own man. He can't allow that to happen, B. He can't. See, somebody like Jay got to be around people that look up to him and be impressed. If he's around people like Jazzo, Headache, DeHaven, any of those dudes who know him from back in the day and don't look up to him like he God Almighty, it does something to him. He feel that. And because he knows he's pretending. So if he see them, he gonna be like, I can't even live in my lie because it's like that look they give him, they see right through it, and he know they see through him. So it's like, I can't have her around. She know, like they know I'm faking. I can't, yeah, and I feel weird. You see, that's the kind of mentality Jay has. Plus, he can't, like I told you, he can't take and be seen around Memphis Bleek and all those guys taking pictures no more. He can't really be doing that. That's why he got Memphis Bleek in like a pink shirt. Nobody really knows him with this bald head all out. And he told him he'll take a picture then. And he'll let Beyonce and, the family members, they can go hang out with Bleek. But he's like, I can't hang out with Bleek. Yeah, well, Skino is different. Skino is crazy. So if you deal with Skino, he's just like, he's somebody that got like a bipolar disorder too. He's gonna go 100 miles an hour and start talking crazy, and just something that could be a simple conversation with him is he's not somebody who can have a conversation and de-escalate something. If he try to talk, it's like he don't have the words to explain himself without being disrespectful. It's just like, man, dog, you really didn't have to go that far. So, like, it really was a conversation. Man, you don't understand what I'm saying, man. I'm just saying it. Like, what's the big deal, man? Why you taking yourself so serious, man? Tell him to go suck a dick. I be, I be dog. Like, it ain't even that serious. But he go there 100 miles an hour. So for him, it's a bitterness too. A lot of these people, don't let them fool you. It's bitterness. Because if it wasn't bitterness, they wouldn't be in the position that they're in. There's a crazy, nasty bitterness that's going on that everybody seems to be a part of, because they envious to see that Jay do stuff for Bleek. Even though he was like, yeah, well, he did an interview. He ain't gonna come on your show, your podcast show. You will never see Jay on that podcast show. Jay is on a whole nother level. He ain't finna go do nothing low tier like that. That's cool for Bleek. You ain't gonna see Jay do nothing like that. That's crazy. Man, Bleek is straight. Like, he got in on Douce, champagnes, stuff like that. Don't worry about Memphis Bleek. Memphis Bleek was cool. But he's a low-key dude. He did an interview for somebody, and they put it on YouTube, and they asked him about Rihanna. And he said, man, I tried to holler at homegirl, and big homie was like, nah, man. Like, hey, that's the big homie, like that. But he didn't say nothing bogus. It's just that once you said it the way you said it, it was like Jay was like, nah, you can't hit that. Like, I'm hitting that. Like, that's me. You ain't hitting that, homie. So he was like, dude, like, what can I say? That's the big homie. And then Jay didn't like he even brought that up. Like, why would you even bring that up? So when he had young Chris, when he was like 16 years old, and told him, hey, young Chris, that's young Chris. So yeah, young Chris and Neef, all those guys. You got Benny Siegel, Jay, and you got Memphis Bleek. Right? Now you put all of them together and do a reunion tour. Maybe you see something like that happen where they all linked up back together. But now you see in a situation where you got Beans, Jay, Bleek. Beans is in a good space now. He went through a lot, jail, shot, all kind of craziness, right? Jay, who never went to jail, never been shot, and supposedly was the kingpin. Nothing ever touched Jay. And we supposed to believe that those are his real dreads. But anyhow, This is a man who stays in a circle of being caught into a wheel of time of business. He's made more in his business dealings than he did on his own music. Memphis Bleek has made more money into Duce than he did on his own music. Beanie Siegel about to make more money doing everything else besides his music. This is why when he wanted to leave and Fifth was there and Fifth wouldn't let him go. I mean, he wouldn't let him sign with 50 Cent. And there was big money involved, like some M's. And they were gonna roll out like about 3 albums. They had a whole plan to get out all the projects. And Jay didn't want to let him go. And he didn't want to let him go to 50. And he was like, what, you need some more money? I got you. He was like, I don't want your money, but I got a chance to go get my own money. Let me get up out of here. You know, y'all ain't really doing anything no more. Like Roc-A-Fella was done. Then when he had Rock Limited, like Jay didn't even want Memphis Bleek to use the Rock name on stuff, you know? So it's a whole different thing. Like the way Fifth moved with G Unit was a lot different than how these guys moved now with Jay. See, Jay treated it like a business. Fifth treated it like, these my boys. You know, we came up together. You know, I was in my grandma's basement and Banks and Ye over there. Everybody else I met once I got blew up. You know, Young Buck came along basically after I blew up. You know, here come Buck. So Memphis Bleek has just been a guy who never strove to be the #1 rapper in the world. You know, he never was that guy. He didn't have that drive. He was always laid back. But everything he got, if you hear the podcast show, you know, it's always about a Jay-Z story. You know, him and Jay, they did this, they did that. That's what it's about with them. So I never cared about what Memphis Bleek was doing. He came and did a show in Chicago. Bleek was cool when he first came out. We was like, oh, Bleek gonna be straight. Because I knew something was different. Jay was writing the rhymes. His early work, Jay was writing that. Oh yeah, man. Um, it was crazy. It was a crazy time. And yeah, it was a crazy time in those days. It was the wild, wild west. But Bleek was the guy he could send on the streets. He was the Tony Yayo for Jay-Z, except for Fifth, and would never be at a point where he say, I can't be around Tony Yayo. Unless Tony is just out there too wild. But that's why when you had Tony Yayo and Bleek going back and forth, it was like Come on, Bleak. Like, your guy don't ever really be standing by you though. Fifth still stands by me, you know what I'm saying? Because he knows what it's like. Bleak wasn't the guy out there hustling with them. Yeah, back in the day. Everything becomes strange to people that don't understand it. If everything will become strange to you if you don't understand what's going on. You see, what's happening is we have a real big problem in America. Is that everybody feel like they're entitled. Their opinion means everything in the world. Like if I say something, like I think he's like, oh well, if you say something, you think your opinion mean everything in the world. Like no, I'm aware that it doesn't to everybody. They gonna feel what they feel anyway. There's stuff Memphis Bleek ain't never gonna bring up on that show. He ain't gonna never bring up when Jay left him. They was in they all had the vans, like right? They was this is like 96, 97, and they went to like Miami. It was in they had a show to do in like Florida or something. It might have been volume one was getting ready to come out, right? And they was doing promo. And they was like, hey, we finna put out the volume one, we finna do X, Y, and Z. So they went up like down to the like to one spot in like a club. Jay was acting real big willie, you know, kind of standoffish a little bit. His security got a little pushy with people because they don't understand how really Florida move, you know, and the areas are not like sealed off for celebrity. You know, it's a chill vibe up in this place, but they don't understand how, you know, Floridians act. You know, like they ain't trying to do you no harm, but you know, hey, what's up? They all up on you, really, you know, saying like showing love. You know, they don't really want no drama. They get off on, hey, you ain't from here. Oh, let me show you some love. They love to show hospitality, you know, and you know, the people in the Midwest in New York, they feel on edge. Like, what the hell this dude want? Are you trying to line me up? So, you know, naturally everybody on point. So the security guard was a little extra with some dudes, and then it made Jay look bad because that's all they was gonna say was, "Oh, this dude coming down here thinking he'd have died," you know, and Big had died like right before the Jay-Z album was completed. Big died, and it was like it was crazy because Big died and Jay was at the funeral asking questions and trying to. He was politicking his album. It was the weirdest thing anybody had ever encountered. It's like he didn't give a fuck. I swear to you. And if you listen to the albums and everything, he didn't give a fuck. Big died at all. He didn't care. Jay didn't care at all. But what he wanted to do was, since he was there and Nas wasn't, let me go ahead and create that doubt that everybody here in the hip hop world that's here, they mess with Nas more than myself. And Nas will be the king. Oh, I gotta get that throne. So Nas ain't here. Let me go ahead and start spreading this rumor. Yo, where Nas at? Yo, where Nas? Why Nas ain't here? I seen Fox and all them, everybody here. The firm, AZ here. What, like, where's Nas? You know, like he was putting that doubt in everybody's head, Jay, because he wanted the spot. That's all he cared about. Big is laying in the coffin, and this dude is worried about the spot being number one. Your so-called best friend is laying in a coffin, and you thinking about the spot. You ain't care about Big, not one bit. He was just something you was using to get to the top. Ladies and gentlemen, Jay-Z. Hey, dude, that you belong to the city was very insulting to anybody. The city is mine. That was insulting. The city is yours. That's what rubbed Nas the wrong way. Once he saw that, it was up. And these dudes is wrong, using your name in vain, and they claim to be New York's king. It's not about that. It's most serious. I missed your wake, not because I'm fake, because I hate to see somebody so great in that way. So he addressed that whole Jay-Z stuff right there when Jay-Z going around, where's Nas? Why Nas ain't here? He addressed all of that in that song. That I Will Survive song. Yeah, we will survive. Yeah, Jay slept with Bleak girl. Not the one he married to now, but his girlfriend he had at the time. You know, she got around Jay. Jay was the big dog. And Jay started smashing her. And Bleak just laughed. Damn, he took my girl. Tell Bleak to bring that up. And then when he asked you about it, and he asked you, what? Did you love her? No. Then what you tripping for? I did you a favor. And he was like, you know what? You right, big homie. You did me a favor. That's how they operate, man. So Bleak know his position. I'm cool with him because Bleak is no, I got no problems with Bleak at all. Who would? Bleak is not a problem kind of dude. He's kind of a laid back guy. Now he might have a problem with old Skino because Skino is gonna come off abrasive. He gonna come off very disrespectful to Bleak. Because one, he's gonna be bitter. You got something that he felt, man, I could have had that. Plus, it's gonna help him blow up going at Bleak. So he gonna really like that. But Bleak is not a bad individual. He's never done nobody wrong. Yeah, he tried to bridge stuff with Dame and Jay. Cause he was the one saying, "Hey, I'm gonna do the movies with you." He started rolling with Dame. When Dame was doing the movies and stuff, they were still trying to be down with what was going on, even though everything was pivoting away from Dame. Man, look, this is how it is, bro. This is the game. Memphis Bleek ain't finna get tricked out of his position for nobody. He been a loyal guy to Jay no matter what. I think Oskino said, man, if Jay told him to leave his wife, he ain't feeling her energy. Memphis Bleek will wake her up in the middle of the night and say, you gotta bounce. Big homie not feeling your energy. So once again, man, it's all about the money, the power, the fame, the easy living. And it was his wife's idea. She was like, he was telling her, like, look, we at that fork in the road. We living paycheck to paycheck. We struggling out here. And she's like, yo, big brother, who you call Jay, your big brother, he got like 100 different businesses. Why you not a part of any of them? Yeah, he always talk about how he how he had to play the background.
You got for your big brother. That's and they not living it. Exactly. So naturally, the first thing a person is going to say, looking at a person like you, is, "Oh, he didn't take full advantage of what he had."
Yeah, I would have did this, or I would have did it this way. I hear that all the time, bro.
But I do know for a fact that you took full advantage because of the love and loyalty you got for your big brother.
That's a fact. I did what was available. You know what I'm saying? I didn't try to overstep or offend because, like I always say, I wasn't the only one. It was a long list. You know what I'm saying? I had to play the background and wait for my turn. You know what I mean? It was Source Money. It was Jazzo. It was Christian. They had Rel, and then it was Jay trying to pop off. So it was like, yo, I gotta just sit there anxiously, patiently, and anxiously waiting.
Everybody talks about the benefits of being next to a superstar.
Now, here's the thing. Rel was a guy that they had that was cool with, R&B cat that was cool with Dame them. They brought Rel in, and Rel was gonna be that guy that's R&B cat that was gonna blow, right? Then they had Chris Young, who really realized that the business at Roc-A-Fella wasn't going their way. And they had the first real hit on Roc-A-Fella Records, that Watching My Life Go Down. That was the first real hit. That was everywhere. That was on BET. Midnight, Smooth, Jazz. Cause I full smoke. So they had Christian, and then they had Sauce and Jay. and they were supposed to be the anchors of the rap side of things. And Roc-A-Fella was supposed to be like jazz bands, R&B. Then Jay and them was gonna anchor in the rap side. So when they brought in Memphis Bleek, that was just Jay bringing him in. Like, yo, this is my little guy. He gonna be the rapper. I'm gonna write for him and get him off the ground. You know, so I don't even know why he got offended by Bean saying that. Beans said he wrote for me. Well, Beans was writing for you. What's the problem? Everybody knew that was happening. Beans knew Jay was writing the rhymes. Like, come on. You wrote something. Nobody's saying you didn't write stuff too. But come on. Jay would tell you, man, as quick as you learn this rhyme, the quickest you can get on. If I come back and you know this rap already and you can recite it and spit it, then we can go. From me and you, we could do something. But I need you to memorize this like on the spot.
But nobody talks about the pressure. For years, people have debated whether Memphis Bleek really took full advantage of standing next to one of the greatest artists in hip-hop history.
I would say Bleek took advantage. He didn't take full advantage, but he took advantage because he never wanted to be his own man. He really was just like, I'm cool with just staying out the way and doing my little thing on the side. He never had any ambitions. And this is what Jay uses to his flex of power.
One business mistake can change who writes your story and who gets left out. This situation with Memphis Bleek, Jay-Z, and Shaheem is not just hip-hop history. This is a straight business lesson hiding in plain sight. Shaheem is talking about him coming of age for the first time. He didn't even know Jay-Z had a hand in writing it. That alone says a lot about how the industry works behind the scenes. Sometimes the biggest moves happen without you even seeing them. And here's where it gets interesting. There was talk that the opportunity might have originally been for Shaheem himself. And somehow that moment shifted. Not because of talent, not because of timing, but because of a bad business decision. Somebody on Shaheem's team dropped the ball, and Bleek ended up being the one pushed into the spotlight. Now look at what that led to. Jay-Z stepping in and helping shape a record that helped define Bleek early on. That's not small at all. That's career change.
That's like a Jay-Z nut hugger making that statement. What happened was Shaheem was falling out with Wu-Tang. It was a real bad business deal that went down. His album, Man Child and the Promised Land, which was one of his best albums that he ever did. The RZA pretty much produced it, but they didn't clear the samples. So Man Child, you can't even get that album now. They had to pull it out of the shelves. Like, you might can get it overseas, but you can't get like that album like anywhere. It's not on streaming or what have you. And the song with him and Big L was on there. And that's a classic. You can hear that on YouTube. And because of YouTube, you could probably listen to everything now. But Jay idolizes works of, rich white people. That's just how he is. He's always been that. He's at the Louvre right here, taking a picture outside the Louvre. That stuff is impressive to him. It's like works of art. You know, that shit don't mean nothing to, like, you couldn't show something like that to DeHaven, or he'd be like, yo, headache, look at this. This is the Louvre. He'd be like, yeah, it looked like the Luxor. The Luxor. We in Paris. This is the Louvre, man. Show some respect. You just compared it to the Luxor. Be like, you got a casino there? Be like, no, it's no casino. Okay, I'm glad he down here. I've been waiting for you, homie. You finally woke up. Mm-hmm. Now you can go to sleep. Yeah. I'm like, is that a moth or a butterfly? One thing I know. Wherever he flew to. Yeah, there you go. Trying to figure it out, ain't you? He flying crazy. He drunk off the juice. Look at him. Go ahead, homie. Go on and fall down. The party's over. Now, what most people don't recognize when it comes to Jay is that when you're somebody who is delusional, or you're living in your own transformative state of mind, you're only going to follow what you've been instructed in your belief patterns. Jay talk like the people who he followed. His language, his ideals. That's why when he did that sit-down interview, it was with who? A fanboy. Somebody who don't know what the hell Jay talking about. So he can't correct Jay. He can't say, oh, well, I remember that. Jay wouldn't do that with me. He wouldn't sit down with nobody that know him. Why wouldn't you sit down with Angie Martinez? Angie is your person for years. Why wouldn't you sit down with Angie Martinez? That don't even make sense. But you want to sit down with some young hipster, right, and rewrite your narratives to whatever you want it to be. I remember I went to a basketball game when LeBron James was in, I think he was in Miami. His final year in Miami in 2014. And I was in, we went to, I think, Orlando Magic game. And we ran into one of the people who was going to bring, well, we got podcasting now, but they were talking about doing shows, like doing, a boxing show and doing all these wonderful things. And he was, yeah, because I'm working with trying to get Shaq and LeBron James, man. I said, Shaq and LeBron? He's like, yeah, man. Shaq and LeBron, they're gonna get them together and do a show, man, because they're the funniest guys in the NBA. He was like, I'm gonna try to get them to do this show, man, and then we could put it on YouTube. And he's like, but it's just like we gotta find the money, man. His name was Bryant. He actually owns a lot of businesses, but Brian likes the strip clubs. So I used to run into him at the strip club, the Rachel's. So we in there talking business. We got naked chicks in our laps, and we sitting there talking back and forth about business. And right away, he was telling me all this was tax write-off. He's like, oh, this is tax write-off. He's like, this place know what it's doing because this is how we operate. He said, Florida knows how to handle tax write-offs. And he's like, LeBron James got 2 businesses now that's like that. Like all of his stuff gets written off. And I was like, I didn't know that. And he was like, I'm trying to get him and Shaq to do a show. But if you pull it up as the billing that comes up from the strip club, it comes up as like something county food and beverage. So it comes up as food and beverage. It's easily to write it off. So that's where the problem kicked in at. So anyway, Brian ended up working for a guy named Dave Portnoy, all right? You heard of him, right? Barstool. So they ended up partnering up, and he ended up making a lot of money. So now him and Dave, I think they split. So I don't know what Brian is doing now. I didn't keep up with him. But the moral of the story is he wanted LeBron James to do this show. And he ended up getting to a certain point where he wanted Shaq to do it. He wanted to do a boxing show. He wanted to put all these programs together. And here I am talking with this guy. And he exposed the business when I told him I didn't like LeBron. And he's like, why? And he says, oh, okay, I get it. But he was like, I tell you this. You see that the league, right, is pushing LeBron James. And they're comparing him to Michael Jordan. He's like, and you're going to hear them on television tell you he's better than Michael Jordan. He's like, they're not really saying that right now, but they're on their way to saying he's better than Michael Jordan. And it's going to happen some point in his career. They're going to say he's better than Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant now. And all of the people who know and love Jordan are going to fight it. But eventually, that's going to go along for a long time until the Jordan people, they become old, they pass away, and that era is gone. Then it's only the LeBron era. So those guys are going to be there. And then it'll be another young guy that comes along. Everybody's going to say he's better than LeBron. And then it's going to start all over again. He's like, me and you, we'll be dead and gone. We've all seen Mike play, so we know what Jordan can do. But still, I don't think it takes away from LeBron being great. And I'm like, that dude's a effing bum. So that he knew he couldn't do business with me in that boxing thing. He was like, oh man, I wanted to do the show with you guys and have you a part of this thing, man. If you feeling like that about LeBron, that's never gonna work out, man. You sure? You don't give him any credit? No. He knew there was no swaying me. No matter what, the show and all of that. Like that was supposed to move me. All of what he said was supposed to move me to say, oh, no, I'm sorry. I was just kidding. I love to do the show. That's what was supposed to happen. But as we know, it never did happen. Well, ask yourself this question. Why would a person who got money, I mean big money, why would that person care? You feel me? Why would that person care if somebody could do the show or not? You know why they cared if I did the show or not? Because they knew I was good at what I did. When I talk, people listen. My video retention time is one of the highest on YouTube. People who listen to me, if I do a live stream for hours, they will sit there for hours. They saw those numbers and said, hey, that's the guy we want to be in business with. And I'm like, could you blame him? I think it's the progressive choice. Now, as the media continuously promotes artificial talent more than natural talent now, they don't care who's skilled. They don't care who can go bar for bar. I remember they told Black Thought, like, man, this is a great album, but we don't have anything we could put on the radio. He was like, what about this song? And it was a song about endearment and about the living conditions of the single Black woman and how not to give up. It was inspiring. They was like, it's just, it doesn't connect with everybody. It's not making people want to dance. You know, people are into TikTok. It's the new younger area. So Mos Def was the same way. They screwed over after, you know, he had a great album before he did Drogas Wave. You had one of the most interesting artists to ever live, who made himself really known here in the Chicagoland area. And what that would do, oh yeah, it would drive anybody insane, right? Yeah, that Drogas Wave, that was it. Surf Magazine, Hip Hop, Quotables, and Unsigned Hype, Biggie. Yeah, back then it used to mean something. But Lupe Fiasco had a great first album, and he realized the business and what the business really was. And
that got on.
They were just doing their own thing, you know, and everybody wanted to be a free soul. Everybody wanted to be free doing what it is that they were doing. They wanted to pretty much illustrate themselves as the world leaders. They wanted to be the one in control. They felt like they the big bullies of the neighborhood. I'm not mad that Bleek went to Jay and they had a business meeting and he helped Bleek get a part of Duce. So now he gets a check from Duce. You know, he let all that, collateral go to doing something very profitable for himself. So people talking about liquidating stocks. Why would you want to liquidate your portfolios now? It's goofy. But Jay has been liquidating businesses and companies for straight cash because he was cash driven. Well, testosterone is no longer approved in the new modern era. Everybody is zesty, from NBA players to and to rappers, everything, music, the industry, the culture, everybody's gone to this whole zesty thing. And it's always been a problem. The toughness, the masculinity has been driven out of the league of all these sports. And it's a shame. But it's always sports that are predominantly ran by they're ran by African Americans or pretty much dominated by African Americans. They like to incorporate that in. They don't do that with golf. They don't really do that with baseball. You don't see no zestiness out there, so these factoids are very critical. You'll never see the progression of all these other no. At the end of the day, no one cares. I mean, seriously, no one cares about how another person is going to perceive it. You think Jay-Z cares? You think he cares about a fan? He didn't care when Biggie died. He didn't care about any of this. He cared about how it's going to help him. Mm. It was Jay-Z and Kyle Kuzma. They were in, I want to say Prague, some type of fashion thing. The difference, that's the difference between it. The difference is the mental aspect of what's going on. When you got no, it's a lot of things that's happening that people need to be they need to be aware of. Right? You think he doesn't care if Memphis Bleek, his friendship with Memphis Bleek is through connection of I gotta have all my friends around me rich. Like I made all my buddies rich. I made all these people with money, but they don't really have money. You know what they have? They have connections. Desiree Perez, the company has money because the people that paid him is really Live Nation. Now Live Nation just lost this massive lawsuit and they're under fire with the concert tickets. They're gonna appeal it, but this affects a lot of what the influence is with Roc Nation, who's supposed to provide the artists. But Roc Nation is really Live Nation, and they're running the ship, and it's supposed to be illegal for the people who are running the whole concert monopoly to have a company full of artists that they're actually putting on the Live Nation tours. Well, it's like this. Jay is a very known narcissist. So when you're a narcissist, people can only see what's like, people could only see or seem to notice what's right in front of their face. Narcissists, they like art because the people around them like art. The people that's in the higher upper echelon, they buy art. They go to art galas. They're in the part of a psyop where they all do the same things. They shop at the same places. Mm-mm. Right. He can't be seen hanging out with Bleak. If they did a show or a concert or something. Man, it was crazy. Mm-hmm. When most people see what transpired during the early parts of, I would say, like the early parts of Memphis Bleek's career, wasn't really a career. It was just him hanging out with Jay. He wasn't disciplined. He's a young kid. They sent him home at one time because he was spending too much of the company's money, costing them money, and just being reckless. So he didn't understand that it was a business. So they had to send his ass home for a while. And was like, all right. So he had to go home and, everybody else got to kick it. They sent him back home. They was like, go work on that album. Yeah, so he had a reality check. But Jay was writing the rhymes for him because of Jay, he didn't like the deal that was put in place. He wasn't really making any money at Roc-A-Fella at that time. That's why Sauce Money left. And it was like, dude, you left, right? And then they blew up right after he left. But Sauce Money got a big deal. You know, he got a good album deal, had a Jay-Z feature. And Jay was like, all right, cool, I understood you left. He understood why Sauce left. You know what I'm saying? So, but he went over there with Un at that time because Un was cool with them. So he signed with Un. Un got all that money. And Jay was thinking about going over there himself and leaving Roc-A-Fella. He wanted out. He wanted to go work with Puffy. So when they did Volume 1, he brought Puffy and them people over there to try to bring Jay into the pop world where Big used to be. And Jay just, at that time, couldn't make it work. I like Volume 1 because it's got a lot of different themes to it. The Hitman made songs and beats that just like would be for Mace or somebody on Bad Boy. Oh yeah, man, it's a classic tale, when people don't do things the right way or supposed to go another direction, you start seeing people change up real quick. Well, the majority of them is the people that's involved is they don't understand the process of what's going on. It's almost like a trance. Right. Jada Pinkett is in Scientology, and she's right there with Tiffany Haddish. That's how they trying to make you believe that Kevin Hart gave her some money because he was screwing her on the side, getting blowjobs from her. That they trying to give you the nice version. Okay, that's why when you go on the Patreon, you understand the whole layout, the whole story. Well, when people start doing the right things, then you start seeing the reactions of those people doing the right things. When you start seeing people that is not doing the right things, trying to come in your space and do things that you want to, or where you feel like, no, no, of course not. No. Well, for years, we've been in situations that didn't sit well with us. We had scenarios that didn't go well with us. We had a lot of different issues that went on within like the community, the times, and things of that nature. But when you have your day ones and loyal friends, it's just that, in certain times you don't have friends that basically stood to the test of time. We wish we had people that was on the same level as us, like that we could take with us everywhere. It's unfortunate that everybody can't bring their homies along. But sometimes it's like right now, you got certain friends you can't take to certain places because if you took them to that place, it would be hell for them. It would. It would be complete hell for them. And everybody there wouldn't have a lot to say about it because they wouldn't even really care. Oh, come on, man. Oh man, it was something crazy, man. It was a lot of people didn't understand the game at the time. They were stuck in their own delusion. Let me tell you like this, right? When you know people are not on your side or they are against you in a way that doesn't make any sense to you, these type of things keep happening to you. You start seeing things go over and over again because other people want it to be that way. And I told you that, man. Jay didn't care about that. Jay-Z is not even the number one rapper in the world. But they'll treat him like he is. Absolutely not. Mm. Yeah, well, we'll see what it reads when it's all said and done. So don't forget to go to the Patreon, because right now my Carcino for Life Patreon is really breaking this down. Way better than anything that I've ever done. Because the month's almost over. And these last 7 days or whatever this month is going to be intense. So buckle up.